guys, welcome to my channel again. You are with Dietitian Vicky. Today, as I promised, we will be talking about heart wellness. September is a month when we are focusing on the heart and heart wellness all at large. So people laugh when I say, you know what, your heart carries so many things. When you are worried about umjolo, your heart is just heavy. When you are worried about your balance, your diet, your finances, they are not balancing, you know the balance. And you know the balance, your heart is also burdened. But you know what, your heart is not only affected by those things. Your heart is also affected by your lifestyle. Your heart is also affected by your diet. So if you live in a world and you find that you do not prioritize your heart health, you will have a lot of problems. So today, I would love for us to prioritize our heart wellness in terms of our lifestyle and in terms of the diet. So in this conversation, I would love to start first with women, seeing that in our past, in the past years, past generations, especially in Africa, you would hardly ever hear that someone had heart failure and heart condition. I remember that when I was in medical school, these conditions, when you saw them, you would be seeing them on white patients, and very rarely would you see them on Africans. And the question is, why is it now that it is very common to see people with strokes? You find young children, young people, you find people that are not even so old having strokes, having all kinds of other conditions, especially strokes. In Africa, it was very rare, but we see it quite a lot, especially in the modern or the civilized parts of the country, where people think now they've got money, bafundekile, all these kind of things. So let's talk about women and heart conditions that actually tends to come around with women. So if we're talking at your heart health, we are talking things like your blood vessels. Are your blood vessels tight? Remember that your blood vessels are pipes, and these are tubes that carry fluids and your blood and around. So we are looking if your vessels, maybe they are tight, are they swelling, do they have blockages? And we're also looking at your heart. So in medical terms, we talk about the cardiovascular system, and if we have to look at it all in all, then we talk about the metabolics in the cardiovascular system. So we say cardiometabolic system. So in essence, sometimes you might find the doctor saying you have a cardiometabolic syndrome or something like that. I'm trying not to make it very medical here. So in essence, we'll be looking at your heart. Is your heart pumping well? Is all sides of your heart, are they all functioning well? Are your blood vessels well? The big ones and the small ones, and that in its entirety, we are talking about it as your heart wellness. So as I'm saying, for females, let us look at what really can affect your blood vessels, your blood flow, your circulation, and things like that. For young women, one thing that is very common in young women, it's a thing, yadi clots. And nowadays, it's very common to just hear that someone suddenly dropped and died and all that. Many a times you find that people are shooting clots. So you might be saying, like, where do clots come from all of a sudden? There are many things. But for young women, clots, the one thing that make it high risk for young women to have clots is actually contraceptives and your lifestyle. So many contraceptives that females take, they tend to make it very easy for their blood to clot. Well, you may not be stopping your contraceptive, but whilst you are on your contraceptive, you can now look at your lifestyle so that your lifestyle does not increase the risks of you forming blood clots. So already you are on contraceptives because you need to be on contraceptives for the reasons that you set for yourself. But then now let's look at your lifestyle, your diet and your lifestyle. What are the things that you can do to reduce the risks of you forming pulmonary emboli or DVTs? These are very common clots that you come across. And when you're looking at your lifestyle, the things that can actually affect you, if you look at, do you rest enough? That will affect your heart health. Do you exercise? Even with exercise, this is not necessarily Vision Active, although Vision Active is good, and other gyms, it is quite good to have that. But I mean, we're talking about mobility. This can be done whether uko lokshini, it can be done whether you are in suburbia. You just need to put your feet to work. I mean, we live much of our times on our bums. You sit down in the office, you sit down at work, you literally, when you live your life on your bums, things like that increases the risk for your blood to clot. You are static. So you can imagine that literally if you spend your day in static situations, you sit all the time, or maybe you are one of those people that work and you are standing all the time, but the issue is that you are static. Now, if your work demands that you are static, it's okay. You don't quit your job, but ensure that your feet do actually do the working after work. So remember the past years, people would knock off and walk to the bus station or walk to the train station and find that like we are gijima. So those things kept our mothers safe and all that. But now that you've got a good Z1 or something parked underground, where you park and then you take a lift and you sit, take a lift back, get your car, you get home, lounge on the couch, from the couch to your bed. So that lifestyle alone is high risk. So one thing, acquire mobility. Even if you have your car and whatnot, when you get back from work, for instance, at least walk a good 30 minutes, 40 minutes in your street. Take a light jog if you can. If you have a small baby, take your small baby for a walk, or push your baby prema if it's safe to do so. But otherwise, literally get your feet moving, okay? Other than that, you can do things like your rope skipping. One day you'll skip with me, and I'll show you how I do it before I go to work. And then let's talk about other things. Alcohol, it's a very sad thing that has happened to women. I don't understand what has really happened to women. So when you begin to indulge in things like that, women buy a vapor and you smoke and you drink a lot of alcohol, your body biologically is not made or meant to even handle those things. For instance, let's look at how a female's body handles alcohol. So the reason when you go to the doctor, the limitations for alcohol intake for female is so small because your body has got a lot of blood cells compared to males. You are going to absorb a whole lot of alcohol compared to males, and hence you're going to develop a lot of weight gain from that alcohol compared to your males. So you cannot in any way, form or shape drink like men. And women tend to take this whole feminism agendas way too far. Your biology is not created to do that. And unfortunately, in as much as you love that savannah, your biology is not created to handle any of that. So be careful how much you drink. Those things will increase your risk of cardiometabolic syndrome, and you will find your blood clotting quite easily. Things like your smoking, for instance, cigarettes in the body, the chemicals you find in cigarettes, they make the vessels to be very, very tight, and these are things that make it very easy for young women these days to be hypertensive. I mean, you find women in their 30s now that are on antihypertensive medication, that needs to be on antihypertensive medication. It never happened with our mothers. The reason is all this lifestyle. So the more pooza you make, sooner you will be poozing a lot of drugs, a lot of medication. So as you pooza, just think about it, you are soon going to be having to pooza a lot of medication. So unfortunately, so with food, I would advise you to add food that actually provide a protective factor, and these are food items that at least provide your blood with a grace to thin. So we call them blood thinners. These are food items you can add in your diet. You can drink some of them, you can add them when you're cooking. So things like cinnamon, Cinnamon behaves like aspirin. It's very much competitive as well. Cinnamon provides blood thinning activities. So your cinnamon can make for a nice cup of tea. You know, try to have, like the way you plunge your coffee in the morning. Sometimes instead of plunging your coffee, plunge your cinnamon and have like a cinnamon tea. I'll get to show you how to make your cinnamon tea. So it's something that you can do maybe before you go to bed or quite early in the morning when your stomach is empty. You can have that cinnamon. You can have like a plunger your cinnamon. You can put your cinnamon with other things. You know, when you plunge that cinnamon, you can put some lemon. Lemon, because of its vitamin C, it also provides blood thinning activities. So it does actually improve your blood so that your blood is not thickened and it is not clotting. So things like your turmeric, for instance, cumin, it provides activities that are similar to what the warfarin medication provides. So when you have pure cumin, it actually behaves like the warfarin drug. So it does also thin your blood. It's more like if you're shooting Clexane, which is one injection we tend to give for thinning the blood. So things like your cumin in the diet, they do provide you with that activity of keeping your blood naturally thinned. So you can compensate by eating those kind of things regularly in your diet. Things like your garlic do actually provide blood thinning activities. They assist quite a lot. So if then you say your groceries and the diet, what would you add in terms of the food and in terms of the groceries? For vitamin C, it's quite easy. So you look at your citrus fruits and vegetables in season. I mean, if you plan to have lemons, it's a very easy and affordable thing that you can actually just even grind or blind your lemon, keep them bottled in your fridge, and maybe at least a good 3 to 4 days in a week. You can have that lemon alongside with olive oil. You can just take it as a spoon, you know, and it's very easy. Things like your cinnamon, you can have your plunged cinnamon at least a good 3 days to a good 4 days in a week. That can help. For people that are on medications like warfarin, these are blood thinners that would be prescribed for you because perhaps you had pulmonary emboli or you had DVTs, these are your deep vein thrombosis, or in a way you have any form of thrombitis. Thrombitis do cause strokes, so we will be talking about strokes at the next session. So if you already have been diagnosed with those conditions and you are put on those medications, you do need to speak to your dietitian to work out a special diet plan for you. Why is that necessary? Okay, so your warfarin does interact with a lot of food items. You could find yourself with warfarin toxicity if you take warfarin and you eat a lot of foods that are also blood thinners. That can lead you into bleeding, warfarin bleeding. So because you have had a lot of blood thinning combinations in your diet. So even the supplements that you take, you could be taking supplements like your vitamin C, for instance. When it combines with your medication, that could propel you into overbleeding, and that's not what you need, even though you need it to thin your blood. Or you could be eating items of food in your diet that are working against your medication, like food items that have high value vitamin K. When vitamin K interacts with your medication, it's antagonistic to your medication, meaning it renders your medication useless. So you could be having your blood thinning medication and you are eating things like avocados, you know, spinaches, these food items, or cabbage. They've got a very high vitamin K, and you could be having your livers, very high vitamin K. You eat that, you are having your blood thinning medication, your blood thinning medication is not going to work. So all in all, you will need to work out with your dietitian to strike a balance in terms of what are food that will interact with your medication to make it unable to work or to cause you to bleed, so that you create a balance in between. Alongside, as you see your nurses, to monitor your blood tests, to look at what your INR looks like. Your dietitian will factor into place those kind of blood tests, your INRs, your PTTs. Those that have these conditions do understand what I'm talking about, and if you don't have this condition, you might not know and understand what your INRs are and things like that. Those are the blood value parameters that we use to monitor if your blood is over thinning or your blood is over clotting, and what the balance should be like. So all in all, you will need to see a dietitian to do that. But for those that have not had a diagnosis as yet, but you just want to be cautious, you also may need to speak to a dietitian to say, look, I am on contraceptives and I don't want to wait for the day I'm told that I've got a clot in my lung and I'm scared. So what can I eat and how can I eat so that my body and my blood is not having high risk for clots? And that's one way of looking and taking care of your blood circulation and your vessels. Next on our conversation, we will be talking about stroke, and we will go ahead to talk about cholesterol. So look out for those conversations. Bye.